Welcome back. In our last session, we would like to go into realities. I'm getting into these facts. We continue to talk about some of the good policy initiatives, but implementation, practical implementation remains a challenge. And some people are very much keen, and they say these programs maybe are becoming much more political. This morning, for my interest as a moderator, we are not interested in politics. We are interested in realities and practice. It will be useless to me, in my generation, if we sing a song for the last 20 years, and as I will be retiring after the 20 years ahead of me, it's the same song. I will be really feeling shabby and ugly, unable to explain what happened exactly. But my guests, maybe, as we do trigger this discussion, we may make a contribution to change the narrative. I'd just reached at you, and we were on a point of realizing this urban farming, the excuse of land, the excuse of loss of soil fertility, the excuse also of capital, agricultural credit, because all this is supposed to be feeding us into production. Would you give us the realities of what is happening and how we can achieve it? Because other countries which have done it best, they have utilized all those opportunities and potential.
Yes, thank you very much. I think sometimes I would say that some of the reasons why we are not very innovative, or why we don't go the extra mile, is because Uganda is naturally blessed. We have that bit of a comfort zone. But to tell you the truth is that there is a lot that is going on, and there's so much that can be done. Speaking of urban farming, there is a lot of resources that can be utilized without even investing a lot to boost urban farming in Uganda. And it would be a big solution to, because we have a high rate of urban poverty. So many households, as people come expecting to get these green or blue collar jobs, end up not getting. Very many households are living in poverty in Kampala, in Wakiso, in Mukono, and all these areas. So urban farming, one, there's a lot of polythene waste. A lot of polythene waste. This waste could be actually basins for planting. They could be used for gardening, urban gardening. Containers.
What I call vertical gardening.
Vertical gardening. You've seen containers everywhere being thrown. All this can be used for gardening. You've seen a lot of waste being piled all over. In any of the markets, there's always that stench coming from the waste.
Yes. That
waste is actually organic matter that would be composted and used to produce very healthy products organically. But now what is it? The city authorities don't have the money to pick it up. So it is a menace causing disease, yet in actual sense it could be harnessed into a raw material.
Appeal to them, call upon them to wake up.
Yes. So I think for me, and this is why we need to talk about a systems approach, because KCCA and all these city authorities are struggling with urban waste. It's a big problem. Low investment. Part of our taxes going into all this collection. On the other hand, we have people sleeping without food and dying and falling sick of the very waste.
Doctor, you seem to be having some information.
I'm interested.
So we are suffering of the very waste that could be an opportunity to produce the food, nutritious food that we want to boost our immunity. But you see, there is a disconnect. The Ministry of Health, now the city authority, then the agriculture, then you get the point. Yet if we work together, because that's why we are talking, we're not talking about food value chain and production, we're talking about food systems. Appreciating the connection.
I want to appreciate your point and take us back a bit. The KCCA, that's the Kampala State Council Authority. We were discussing here that before we go to a nation or the authority, we begin with a household, then we will go to whether a cell, then a ward, then we look at the parish, and so forth. How can it be broken into practice so that the role of the citizens and everyone outside there in the agricultural food production chain that starts with the household is able to be engaged and know his role or her role?
I think for me, the first thing is the knowledge.
Okay.
Can we equip these households with the appropriate knowledge and techniques of doing urban farming? Like Doctor was saying, there are so many technologies that can be used. The vertical gardening. You can do a lot of gardening on your wall. You can do gardening on top of the roof. You can do gardening in the compound. Some of these plants, edible plants, make very good flowers, I would say. You know, so rather than put there something you're not going to consume, can you put something that you're actually going to harvest?
Break it into that gardening and enterprises. We are teaching as well. We are informing.
So from the technical point of view, the skill is there, and they are already very successful urban farmers in Kampala. You've heard of the Narimas, the Dr. Nambatias. Even KCC itself, it has a demo in Chanja. They have an institute. They are teaching urban gardening. But how many are going there to learn, and how many are actually adopting? So the idea is there. It's about, one, the support, the public support, policy support, but also the sensitization, you know, and also sometimes the incentive. For example, there's an initiative which we working with Pelham under the initiative called Youth in Agroecology and Business Learning Track. It's called I think African Women Rising or something like that. But they have an initiative where they are supporting these youth to deal in urban farming. So they avail them with some of these technologies to use. You know, they have this kind of trays, you know, which they've made, fabricated, which can be used, put in the soil and do the gardening. And now the group of the farmers are formed into a circle, like a group. They do a bit of saving and cooperative, but also they give them the seed, but also they aggregate the products, and then they sell them. And of course they remove the operational cost and give some bit of the money back to these women that they are working with. So you find that such initiatives are possible, but you need to look at it from the system's perspective. For example, if it's the youth, they're not going to produce these vegetables because they want to feed them at home. If you show them that if you produced 100 tomatoes, you can get, like we were saying, 300,000, then they would be interested. You get it? And if they are sure that when they get it, they're actually going to get the money. Because the challenge we're having right now, like the doctor was saying, he's been moving around and he's seeing maize everywhere. Do you know what that means? That actually, to the farmer, it means that no, that maize is going to be sold at less than 300 shillings a kilo. You get that? So we don't have any support mechanism. It's a free economy. It's not regulated in any way. So when that farmer has invested in getting all this compost and the manures, and they produce the tomatoes, and they go to the market hoping to get 5,000 a kilo and they get 1,000 a kilo, do you think they'll do it again? Probably not. You know. So we need to look at the whole system and see how do we create mechanisms that are going to stimulate the investment in urban farming, but also looking into the architecture. Some of these in the new the new buildings that are being constructed all over, can we have some green infrastructure projects? It's
green infrastructure projects.
Yes, it's from the design. Like you see, if you go to say Southern Korea and all that, it's a new thing. Every building wants to be as green as possible.
Wow.
Because the greener it becomes,
The cooler it becomes.
the much.
And the environment and
The environment,
the climate,
the sequestration of the carbon in the atmosphere, you know, all this, so the microclimate and that greenness. Can we have these green parks? Can we have these the gardens all over the city? So it goes back into now the planning at the authority level. So there has to be an intervention at the different levels, just like you've rightly put it. I will allow Doctor to add and do that. I can see.
So as he's coming on board, horticulture is one of an agreed upon undertaking that we were looking at, and we were also citing examples in all municipalities, and as we talk about Kampala, which is accommodating a larger population, and also other towns and other upcoming cities. Everyone is running from the urban because there is urban, rural, rural urban migration. And then after rural urban migration, unemployment. And the excuse of saying we don't have land. It happens to be, dear viewers, Dr. Henry Mugisha Bazira, the ED Water Governance Institute. He has elaborated before about a subject matter that feeds into the agroeconomic production that is basically driving commercial agriculture. He talked about fish farming, which is supposed to be everywhere, as according to your previous model that you explained to us. And would like to internalize more in such, and also be able to be of an advisory voice to our dear viewers who think that when you are a tenant, you cannot do agriculture. And when you are talking about I've gone to my farm, people think that you are meaning the other 20 or 50 acres. You're welcome on that matter.
Thank you. I just had 2, maybe 3 points that I wanted to quickly, before I come to that, that I picked up from the conversation we had before. And I'm giving this one free of charge because I don't want, I'm overstretched. I can't invest in that area. But I can tell all the city authorities, not only KCCA, that they invest in converting the organic waste into organic fertilizer. You don't need to wait to compost it. All you need to do is to grind it. After grinding it, you dry it and prime it with any fertilizer. If you have done tests and found that some nutrients are missing, you prime them with those missing nutrients from the fertilizer, pack them back in bags and sell them. I'll give you a price, 6,000 a bag. And that was the price I did in 1994. It still applies today. So that's free for them. Let them go and do their job of investing. And the second point I want to make is we made a mistake to take government out of business.
We made a mistake to take government out of business.
Yes. We made a mistake to take government out of business.
How is it out of business?
We divested. We privatized. Yes? We took government out of business. And 30-something years later on, we have now a law of public-private partnerships.
Yeah, 2000.
Which means it's bringing back government into business. So we have lost an opportunity. Because some of the areas that we are talking about where investment may not appear, because we were thinking that the private sector was going to lead us in the so-called context, private sector-led development. That was totally misconceived idea. Yes, private sector is very, very useful, but it can't lead your growth. You as a government, you are the one to lead your growth. Define your development path, not for the private sector to decide your development path.
You be the one to give them
because
direction.
The private sector invests where there is better returns. So there are areas where there will be less returns, or returns that take some time to come in, and that's where government would come in.
1 second. Don't you think that if Uganda, as a government, takes the interest, the same way they are bringing here industries and so forth, and get around 400 agricultural private investors
we have a list of
that are supposed to be going into this, that will lead from agricultural production to technology to industrialization? Don't you think the country could do very well with private agriculture investment?
So my point is, can government take interest in the areas where the private sector is not interested in, and support farmers? Give them, if you want, give them loan. I know there's the Uganda Development Bank. Yes. Can government have deliberate effort to support areas where the private sector is not interested in putting money? You see, government has decided to go to invest in the mining sector. We are going to be setting up the National Mining Company very soon. We have established the National Oil Company. Okay? Why? Because government sees those resources as strategic. No, thank you very much for investing there. But there are other strategic areas that you need to invest in agriculture.
Agriculture.
Yeah, come in and grow up sectors of the agriculture that seem to be neglected. Like I said, can we have dodo packaged and sold on the market? Increase the shelf life of dodo. Increase the shelf life of fish. Now I come back to the story of fish.
Yes.
Okay?
In both urban and rural setup.
Many of you have visited people's offices and you have found an aquarium. Aquarium is a tank where there is water and there are tiny fish as small as my thumb. Many of you don't even know how those fish feed, but you find them busy swimming in those things. And that's where, for me, I got the concept of aquaponics. I visited a guy, he had an aquarium. I asked him, how much did you invest in that aquarium? He said, I put in 3 million shillings. And I said, so when do you eat that fish? That's what I asked him. When do you eat those tiny fish? They are golden fish. They never grow bigger than the size of my thumb. He said, no, those are just to make me relax, feel good. You know, when I'm pressurized with work, I sit in front of my aquarium and that water effect and the fish makes me cool down. Okay? I said, okay, can we use the same science to raise the fish that I can eat in my home? That was a simple thing. So what I did, I'd say growing, I tested them in some tanks, and now it's a long story. Let me cut the long story short.
Yes, yes.
Today I'm promoting aquaponics, not only in Kampala, in Wakiso. Yeah.
What's
in
the rate
7
of
other
production
districts.
and returns to inspire someone there to maybe join you?
So now, if you are going to go the commercial scale, then you have to invest the commercial size. Okay, and it's possible. You don't have to go and raise fish in the earthen ponds that you always see. You can raise fish in tanks, and you'll be able to raise them to the size that even comes out of the lake.
The size and the number and the outcome.
For me, my agenda now, what
returns.
I'm working on for the next, from 20 to probably 20, if inshallah, if God gives me life, for the next 10 years, I want to make sure that I make a contribution to the fisheries value chain, so that I know that there are fish feeds producers, I have fish fingerings producers, I have those who are culturing the fish to maturity, just the way the chicken value chain is.
Doctor, I'm still with you and I'm not cutting you short. But there is,
That's going to be my
there is
contribution
a
this
good point you are raising, and would you like to cross-cut it both in urban and rural areas? Just tell us briefly, on a certain size of a tank, which is affordable by a common person, even who is a tenant. Because me, I'm on the side of Bapangisa, the tenant. And even the landlords, anyway, I'm not against you. Then out of this measurement of this tank, you can raise this amount of fish. In a period of this, you'll be able to get this. Then we also got tomato like that.
I don't have the privilege of showing you pictures here. I have set up systems in Chegegwa, in the refugee setting, just about 2 months ago, in Kasese, all right? So today, as we speak, we have about 350 farmers countrywide who are practicing aquaponics. And so you have asked me a question, what size do I need? The aquaponics system can be tailored to the space that you have. But in totality, minimum, you need 15 square meters.
That's the measurement we want.
15 square meters in which to put up the setup. So it can be longitudinal, it can be square, it can be made into circular setups. And you have a minimum 5,000 tank capacity. That's, for me, that's what I prefer for anybody who wants to really start a semi-commercial thing to deal with. Okay? And then you have a water harvesting tank, and then you automate the system.
Water harvest tank, to the viewers, even you can raise it in the space.
Yeah, it goes up the top, and you have a fish tank here, you cover it up.
You are a tenant, but you raise up your water harvest tank on the top.
You have 4-inch pipes where you're growing your tomatoes, your green pepper, and you remember before the show, we had a conversation about the tomato. Tomato will give you 30 fruits of about 30 grams each.
Yes.
And we're doing the calculation how much money
one can be able to get.
would give you in a year.
You bring it out. It was a good one.
So
we're talking money.
Yes. And so based in that system, you're able to raise a plant, a tomato plant, using water only, not soil. Yeah. So I don't need to have a big land. My veranda is enough to raise up those things in the pipes, 4-inch pipes to 6-inch pipes, whichever you want to use. And you make holes in them and allow water to go through. Leveled water system runs in very well, smoothly. Okay. You prop up the plants. Okay. Now the tomatoes, each plant minimum will give you 30 fruits. You'll harvest off a tomato plant, if it's well maintained, 3 times in a year. And each plant is going to give you 30 fruits. Okay? So 30 fruits of, help me with the calculator, of 50 grams. Each fruit is about.
How will you have planted them? You are dealing with urban?
Vertical gardening.
Vertical gardening.
To be in pipes.
Either pipes,
yes,
or even these disposable
sacks, gunny bags,
buckets.
Yeah, but that's now separate.
Buckets can also work.
Yeah, buckets can work. Bovera can work.
You
put them on stacks. But I'm talking about aquaponics that involves movement of water from the fish tank into the crops back again. So you are using a circular system. You don't have to use a lot of water. Use the same water over and over and again.
Okay.
Now, the thing is that the economics lie in this thing, that the tomatoes or the vegetables that you're growing, in this case tomatoes, are going to harvest 3 times in a year. And they're not dependent on season. As the fish are maturing by 8 to 10 months, yeah, they have acquired the market size, then you can sell off the fish. Then you come back and do the similar stocking. So even a person in town can do that. Because in a tank of 5,000, you can raise about 600 catfish and maybe 330 tilapia. For tilapia, you have to automate the system, add in oxygen, and make sure. So our biggest challenge currently is the quality of the feeds on the market, which is limiting the growth of the fish. But we are trying to solve that problem going forward. Because like I said, for me, I want to contribute to the fisheries value chain and demystify fish rearing to the point that I can raise fish at home like I raise my chicken.
Fish, I want to talk about fish. When you reach at these centers, they are selling fish, a small piece 1,000, and they're interested in the other good one. And that time you share that information that fish is an interesting product even by the investors, those in terms of export, steering up the export trade, fish farming. And it's all about how it can be done. How can we use our Lake Victoria, use our available more other waters and any other method possible, even if we were to have this enterprise as one of the major ones? I say this, it's linked to what you are doing, and that is attributed to environmental conservation, especially for where there are wetlands. How can we strengthen this enterprise to be wider and with the involvement of all stakeholders?
For me, fish farming can be done by many people and anybody, because aquaponics is the way we are going. Go to Europe, much of the fish they are eating is through an aquaponic system. Because the lakes are being depleted. Lake Victoria, you know what is happening now with our fish resources. So surely we don't have anything to complain about.
Wetlands.
And our wetlands.
Yes.
So you don't have anything to complain about. People who are growing flowers can have another section that has fish, and the water from the fish comes into the flowers. Okay, you don't need to add that fertilizer. The organic thing is talking about. Okay, so bring it to a large scale commercialization of aquaponics. Yes, and you will not go wrong.
Okay, thank you. We go to you. I am having a question of debate. You are having wider information and knowledge of our government, the government policy practices. And to me, in my view, what is done in Masaka and elsewhere, where we would have been in a position to conserve our environment, use our wetland very well, and it will be a worry for Uganda some few years to come, when you are passing by, for instance, from Masaka to Kabale, Masaka to Mbarara, where you will no longer maybe having some of these young men raising their fish. Why? The very land which was a wetland, and beyond that, it is being used for
sand mining.
For sand mining. That's number one. Then number two, for rice production. Don't you think it's a mismatch? What do you critique on that, and what do you recommend?
Yes, I think it's very unfortunate.
And it's controversial.
It's very unfortunate because on the one end, we've had strong directives ordering people to vacate the wetlands, and even from the president himself. But in practice, we still see a lot of wetland degradation. That is a very classic example, because we have a lot of sand mining that is going on. We have a lot on the one end. We have rice production by, I think, a Chinese company also. And see, the problem is this: some of these effects, one, they are going to affect the common person first. They affect the common person first, because one, the common person is the one that lacks the capacity to adapt to some of these effects. I'll give you an example. Wetlands are they provide very key ecosystem services. Like you've talked about the breeding, the fish production. All these fish are going to lay their eggs near the wetland areas, in the shorelines. When these wetlands are being destroyed, when you're having one end of the wetland turned into a rice production field that is using fertilizers, all these nitrates are leaching back. Because one, the wetland, which would have had its job as a sink, was supposed maybe to absorb some of these toxic chemicals, but now it has been turned into a production area using fertilizers, using pesticides. These pesticides are ending up in the water.
If you allow me to interject just for a second,
yes.
I am grappling with people who have who are doing land filling in Lake Victoria in order to create land titles in the lake.
Land
Just here,
titles.
yes. Land titles were issued in the lake. But as a means of justifying those land titles, the ones who have created those land titles are now bringing soil and land
Is it
filling.
legally and practically possible?
You know the law. Our law doesn't allow that. But in practice, that's what we are seeing being done. I'm grappling with some people in Lake Victoria. So that's something I just do not understand how we can go to that level.
I pose a question to you. You are, all of you here, your NGOs and you advocate, and your voice is not undermined at all. You can even raise a petition in unison as you are here and take it to Parliament and even make a peaceful demonstration to speak, and also maybe use the legal framework. Are your hands tied that you cannot make any check in advocacy?
Our hands are not tied. I've actually served the government with intention to sue on that matter. And if nothing is done, I think even the days are past, we are proceeding with the legal suit. Hopefully, if our court system is just, we shall get justice.
Mr. Joshua Ijuka, we are for action. Are your hands tied? Because your NGO is to give us an opportunity for sustainable farming systems. And you have met such challenge I've pointed out.
Yes.
And remember, we are dealing with the whole country.
Yes.
We want to remain known as an agrarian economy that is prospering. It is to our information that tourism so far is contributing higher to the GDP than agriculture, which should have been our backbone of our economy. What are you able to do beyond this, narrative here through the talk show? Your NGO is a good one, and as you collaborate with others, we can stop this and influence.
Yes, the first thing, one of the issues we're emphasizing as an organization is community empowerment and awareness. To be able to protect their own resources. Majority of these resources actually are within the communities. So already government many years ago had set up the natural resource management committees in some of the areas. In some areas they are functional, in other areas they are not. But reviving these and establishing these in collaboration with government where they are not, and have these groups of people that are aware one of the benefits of some of these natural resources, like wetlands. We're having one of the projects we're doing in Teso sub-region and in Acholi. We're having communities mapping these resources like the wetlands, demarcating the wetlands, providing alternative livelihood opportunities. For example, if someone is doing rice production in the wetland, are there other alternatives that they can do in these wetlands without necessarily degrading them? For example, livestock production, using...
you are talked about fish farming,
ponds.
Aquaculture.
Doing the pond fish farming, the arts and crafts for the women groups, providing alternatives and also empowering them in areas where you find that there are external players coming on board to be able to advocate.
So you have said
against
community empowerment. Apart from that, and that's good information, how can we say this should stop apart from community empowerment? Because community empowerment is a process and it needs a reinforcement.
Yes, so empowerment, then alternative livelihoods, and also advocacy.
Yes.
Like he had said, advocacy, we must engage the duty bearers at the subnational level, or at the local government level, and at the government level. Because the laws are in place, the laws are very clear. We have very, very good laws.
Absolutely.
The directives, sometimes backed up, sometimes they take different forms. But the directive is clear. A wetland that is fully demarcated should be conserved because of its ecosystem services. Can we adhere to that? Can we, and the role of society is to really keep, on one end we support, but on the other end also we are the watchdog. We have to be able to see what is happening and be a source of alternative voice and the voice for the people to be able to speak out where there are issues of mismanagement of some of these public goods and resources.
Thank you. Would you give us your last word as you aspire for sustainable rural and urban farming amidst all those challenges?
My last word is one is that for our rural and urban farming to prosper, we need a strong intervention from the government. One, in terms of giving an enabling environment, in terms of the policies that are in place, ensuring that they are functional and working for the people. Number two, the investment that we are putting into agriculture, but also the issue of mindset change. Let us not wait for government to do everything. We as the people have the power to change so many things. To begin with the household, with the community, just like a movement. There are already a lot of good practices that can be built on. And finally, I want to add my voice on Doctor's submission on building and breaking. We need a system, we need interventions that build on one another, both from the non-government perspective or the development workers and the government. We need interventions that build on one another. It's really counterproductive to be having one intervention after another that is speaking differently. You know, we are not progressing. So we need to work in unison, build synergies, avoid issues of competition, and be able to work together for the transformation that we need as a country.
Thank you. Coming back to you, Doctor, and also with your last word, in 3 or 4 minutes. There's a Uganda saying, take a cent or rubber, put money where it benefits you. And that kind of narrative is not yet really taken serious in a positive way, in a special feed into agriculture, which uplifts our household income and economic stability. There is a campaign about to reduce even the purchase of, border transportation, all that. You find, as I draw this part of the narrative, one sells land of 4 million, for 6 million, comes to buy a motorcycle. It is becoming too much. Our young boys, our young girls, those who have finished university, those who have not gone to university, that's what they're doing. And others, what they do, they sell their land. They say, I want to just come somewhere where I can put chapati, and I begin to do all that. What can we do best in terms of agricultural financing and getting into our available financial opportunity for investing in agriculture to direct the discourse?
Thank you. One, I will say, let's put more money in agriculture. The 10% that is committed, let's deliberately move.
Are you going to wait for government which is struggling with money? Doesn't have.
I know we are currently in a broke government. That our economy is depending, we can raise to a tune of about $28 billion. That's the economy that we're operating. Yet we are supposed to be like somewhere 100 and above. Okay? But that said, even with the little that we have, can we invest more in agriculture? Let's put more money in agriculture. Let's change the narrative that agriculture is a poor man's investment. It's not. It's a rich man's investment. Let's allow government to invest. And because, first of all, money comes from the state. If the government is not involved in these investments, especially in areas where the private sector is not investing, let government come in. Can we have a government-led development path, not a private sector-led development path? That was the wrong narrative. And whoever brought it made us a mistake. Because private sector is not interested in making you happy. They're interested in making money. Okay? Government at least can make us happy, right? Because it has the flexibility to do that.
Finally, take us back to this. We begin from the household. Even before we reach to government, it starts with the household.
I'm getting there.
Yes, please.
I'm getting there.
Yes, please.
The household will only get money if the economy has money.
Yes.
But planning for production, the point is, can every household be productive? First of all, for food.
Is it possible to achieve that?
Yes, it is. It is. Can we have organized food production? We talked about zoning. Can we now begin to zone? Can our next National Development Plan 4, can it prioritize those things? Because NDP 3 is coming to the end. As we develop that, can we plan for making sure we organize farmers and support them, give them inputs, in a business way, give them inputs and they produce. and we begin to work on the other end of the marketing and processing. Because you need, as a government, it is your duty to develop those areas. Okay? So first of all, government has to come back to business.
Okay.
And that's the reason why we have a public-private partnership policy and law is in place. I think the law, I haven't seen the law yet, but I know about the policy.
Conclude.
Then the other thing is, can we go back to building more vocational institutions? The university approach, the education system that we have today is British-based. It doesn't help us. Can we go back to a system? In China, the young children are trained on how to build phones and toys and whatever. Can we go back to vocational, hands-on practical work that enables people to acquire skills?
They teach you agriculture from
hands. Yeah.
Because we used to have gardens.
Yeah, teach you science from primary, teach you engineering from primary by you building things. You've seen young boys building tractors that are powered by batteries. Yes, small toys and remote controlled. Can we have those kind of technologies being trained at school? Because it is in the TV vocational training where innovation comes.
So we have subjects. We have from primary. We have science,
yes,
social studies. Right? Am I right? Help me to recall.
English, maths, and social studies.
Why not having agriculture?
I don't have a problem with those ones. Those ones are basic. But I'm saying let's put much emphasis in the hands-on, practical, into ceramics, metallurgy. What's the other things? You know, construction. So the point I'm trying to make is, innovation is in people who have the skills. So once you do that, then we won't have a problem of developing businesses, because Ugandans are known to
conclude the rest of the viewers.
Yeah. So really, for me, my last message is to the youth. Yes. Invest in agriculture. For those who are going to border, can you organize yourselves into an organized transport sector?
Okay.
If you want to move away from investing in the border, invest in buses. Can you work with the government to invest in a public bus transport or public border transport system, organized, so that we get out of this mess of people selling off their inheritance to get a border.
Thank you. I appreciate, dear viewers. It has been wonderful to have this gentleman, Dr. Henry Mugisha Bazira. Please, next time come, and I continue to call upon you, NGOs. Please, we are also supporting the work you are doing.
Thank you.
Come and be part of us, partner with us, and we do the work together. Having said that, we believe all the prospects of urban and rural farming programs discussed here, and our aspiration remains household income and economic stability in Uganda. We call upon the government, we call upon private agricultural practitioners to ensure that there is high agri-economic production. We appreciate what the neighborhood countries are doing, Kenya and the other countries, but we better now take charge so that the agricultural products in this country are much more outcompeting with those which are intending to be brought here as exports. Uganda can remain shining as an agrarian economy if all citizens will wake up and stop mediocrity. Whether you are in rural areas, whether you are in urban areas, we say it is possible. We can make money out of agriculture. From here, you can go around your area of residence and have around 20 buckets and do some planting of tomato and so forth, and begin to earn money. And you don't always solicit to bring in what they have brought for you for consumption. Thank you. This has been a good weekend. See you until next time.
So let's make Uganda the real power of